Good morning, everybody.
I'm going to ask Mayor Boyd Austin to open us up with a prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and thank you for all the blessings that you bestow upon us. Dear Father, we pray for our country. We see all around us locally, on a statewide and national basis, a lot of tension and strife. Dear Father, we pray for your peace in our lives and in our country, that you would unite us and bring us together to serve your purpose and your will in your community and in your country. We pray for those who stand in harm's way to defend our freedoms to gather here today, and we thank you for the opportunities you give us in this country. We pray for those in our community who are sick and in need, that your hand would be upon them. All these things I ask in your name and in the name of Jesus.
Amen. Amen. Okay, we want to honor our officials here. We'll start with Mr. Ponell. Good to have you, Vern and Colette. Anybody else? And last but not least, our great friend Dave Carmichael. Let's give him a hand. He kept me clean the whole way. He always took the high road, and I appreciate that. You know,
Better than you do.
You know, just you're a man of God, and we appreciate you. All right. Okay. Anybody want to have a minute from last month?
Move to approve this printing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anybody got any questions about the financial statement?
Don't have anything.
All right, I need a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Terry.
All right, Director's report for this month. First thing I'd like to announce is we've got a pedestal back on the back that's got copies of the minutes, the agenda, financial reports. If anybody would like to see that, there are also 2 stacks of business cards back there, one for Yolanda, one for myself. If anybody wants an electronic copy of what we're presenting, please pick up one of Yolanda's cards. She'll be happy to send you a copy. If you have any questions on anything, please pick up one of my cards, and I'll answer any questions that I can concerning financials or anything else, but specifically I know there are always questions about that. The next phase of my report, we always in the past have reported takeoff and landings. I'm not going to report takeoff and landings anymore. Those are fun to watch, but they don't generate a dime for the airport. So I'm going to report 3 different financials. One is fuel flow. We get 16 cents a gallon for fuel. And so I'm going to start reporting how much fuel we take on board. We get paid from the FBO when they have fuel delivered. So what's important to us on this committee is how much fuel is put into the fuel farm. So in July we had 7,885 gallons deposited into the fuel farm. The average over the past 5 years is 50,000 gallons. That generates about $8,000 a year for the airport. My goal is to turn that into 200,000 gallons a year. That's about 1,000 gallons a day instead of 1,000 gallons a week, which would result in about $32,000 a year in revenue from the fuel farm for the airport authority. In order to do that, the next metric I'm going to report on is the number of based aircraft. We have 2 aircraft tied down outside. We have 11 in the McNeil T hangar and currently 0 paying customers in the community hangar, for a total of 13. The goal is in a year we're going to have 100 airplanes, general aviation airplanes. They're valued at $50 million. And the reason that's important, the county receives tax revenue from aircraft that are based at our airport, and when we hit $50 million, that'll result in about $350,000 in tax revenue that goes back into the tax coffers, and that'll make us a net revenue neutral for the intergovernmental agreement. So that's the goal we need to hit there, and that'll help us, of course, hit that 1,000 gallons a day fuel flow. Lease income, we currently have $2,000 a month that comes in from property leases that we have on the property, and we have potential, in my opinion, of about $10,000 a month. That would up our income to $125,000 for lease income. New business announcements. If you read the Paulden Neighbor this past week, you saw that Silver Comet Aviation opened their doors on our facility. We're excited about that. That's a full-service general aviation maintenance shop. We're happy to have Johnny Jenkins and his son there running that facility. My goal for this coming up year is we need an avionics shop. ADSB is the new mandate for avionics for general aviation aircraft. If every avionics shop in the country were busy doing nothing but ADSB installs over the next 3 years, which is when that mandate matures, we still do not have enough capacity in this country to do all of the ADSB upgrades. So just that alone says that we should be able to attract a good avionics shop to our facility. So I'm specifically targeting that. We need a flight school, we need a snack bar, and I want to see some new T-hangers under construction before the end of the current FY. So those are my business goals. If we achieve all of that, the airport would become self-sufficient. So that's what I'm after. As far as announcements, we do have the results in for our Year 9 environmental monitoring, so I'm going to read the following statement in the minutes. As a result of our monthly water quality monitoring and biannual aquatic biology survey for Year 9 of the airport's 10-year compliance monitoring program, we have established that the airport has had no negative effects on the environment during the current year of airport operations. That's a statement from Michael Baker, and that's the summary of our Year 9 results. So that'll go into the minutes. The next announcement is, yes ma'am.
When we do this monitoring, and this is Year 9, how many flights do we have that takes off a week up there at this time?
Well, it's not really the number of flights that affects this. This is monitoring things like, do we have fuel spillage? Do we have leakage into the creek, the water basin? So that's really what they're monitoring. It's really not so much about flights, it's about pollution. It's what are we doing pollution-wise that impacts the environment around us. That's what they're monitoring.
Do we see that to change if we get busier? I mean, is there more of a danger of those things happening?
Well, there's always an increased danger the more volume you have, but the point is that we have mitigation in place. For example, if you go to the fuel farm, you'll see a 6-inch dam that's built around the fuel farm. It's got pumps and so forth that captures any fuel spillage that might be associated with that. We've got the detention ponds scattered around the property. So there are certain mitigation activities that have already been taken as a part of the engineering of the airport that protects the environment. This monitoring just ensures that that is all being effective and doing its job, which it is.
Thanks.
All right. The next thing is we are inspected every year by the Georgia DOT, and this year they found 3 findings which we need to address. One is we've got a hill across from the tarmac there that they've determined is too high and we need to move it. That's significant because we can't put a spade in a pile of dirt until we get this environmental assessment completed. So I'm going to have to report back to them that we acknowledge the deficiency, but there's nothing we can do about it until we're released from the environmental assessment that we're under. Their second finding was status of runway markings. Our runway markings are now hitting the age where they're beginning to mold a little bit and fade a little bit. And so they have suggested that we work with them on remarking the runway at some point in the future. That's not a critical issue today, but it's something that we will need to monitor and address. And finally, they've directed us to contact Steve Smith at the USDA Wildlife Services regarding wildlife mitigation because they discovered a lot of deer tracks, surprise, around the property. And this is another project that's on our improvement list, but we can't put the fence up until we get the EA assessment accomplished. So 2 safety issues out of the 3.
And Terry, probably
Yes, sir.
for the public's clarification, you just talked about the environmental monitoring. That has to do with the water quality
Correct.
on the constructed area and ongoing operations. The environmental assessment, this is now the 4th one that we've done, and it talks about planned and future projects.
Correct.
And our ability to carry those on, and that's what is stalled the fire department, everything else,
Right.
the fire station, everything else out there.
Right.
So that EA is completed. Both of those are all done according to FAA standards and have to include certain portions.
Right.
So two different items.
That's right. Our entire capital improvement plan was put into the environmental assessment, which means we are completely shut down from any improvements on the premises of the airport until we get that resolved. So that is a very, very big deal for us. Any questions about the inspection? Okay. The last thing is there's been a change in the law. If you're a part of the flying public, there is now a law that's been signed by Obama, which ultimately is going to do away with the Class 3 medical. That is good for flying aviators because the average age of a pilot these days is about my age. Our number one concern is losing the Class 3 medical, which would, of course, take away our privilege to fly. And so I'm hoping that will have an indirect effect, a positive effect on particularly trying to attract a flight school so that anytime any news like this comes out, it's good for the flying population. And so we're excited to see that. Any questions about the director's report?
I got one question, Jerry. I mean, it's great. You got some good goals there, but are you talking to anybody? Are you contacting anybody? And how are you going to do this?
I'm talking to everybody every day.
Are you?
Yeah, I got a list. You want to see it?
Not necessarily, but you know, that was always been our goal, is to load that thing up with airplanes and grow it, general aviation or corporate aviation. So, well,
Not a day goes by that we're not contacted by somebody, either a prospective business, a prospective owner that wants to bring an aircraft there, a construction firm that's interested in construction projects going on the airport. So there's inquiries coming in, and then I've got a lot of contacts in the aviation community as well, and so I'm contacting other airports, other owners, other businesses.
how's the sale of aircraft going now?
Sale of aircraft is flat. You know, it depends on when you compare it to. If you compare it to 1972, it's down about 80%. If you compare it to 2008, it's way up. So it depends on what your point of reference is. Aircraft are selling, used aircraft in particular, are selling. The used market is up quite a bit from a couple of years ago.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for this?
Okay.
All righty. Now we need to award the low bidder, Pete Guy, paving for the driveway asphalt repair at 319 Clark Creek Path in the amount of $53.01 to be paid from rental income.
I visited the property yesterday because I've never been out there since we purchased the property. Got a lot of problems on that driveway. The subsurface strata of the whole driveway is compromised from water infiltrating underneath the pavement. So most of it's, I've actually got some pictures here you want to look at. So that's been compromised. Most of it's cracked from one end to the other end. I counted 9 other places besides what they quoted there, where we lack positive drainage in the first location, coming around a hairpin curve going down a hill. I suggest that we table this for 30 days or to the next meeting until we can further look at it for a more long-term solution. I talked to Terry before the meeting. He said we're looking for 2 to 3 years, but I don't even think we'll get that with the problems we got there, because when water gets up under asphalt and it freezes, it doesn't take too long for it to come on up. I think we're going to have to, at the least, patch it, as the proposal states, and we may need to consider sealing the rest of it to seal the cracks off, so you make it 3 years.
So what are you saying, go get another bid, or?
Well, I don't know. It's.
Are you saying the drainage, is that the ditch problem, or?
Yeah, you got ditch problems. You got.
Well, was a proposal issued, or did they just go?
It just doesn't
go
go.
and look? And
I asked them to specifically patch the 3 worst areas of the driveway. So I agree with Ellis that the driveway is substandard. However, we don't have the money at this time to address all of the problems. I was just trying to address what I thought were the worst 3. There are 3 specific areas where the driveway is completely gone. And I think that's at least one of those pictures he's showing reflects that the asphalt is completely cracked. the substructure is completely, it's basically not there. It's a dirt road.
That's the two worst areas.
Jerry, didn't you give us an estimate too on patching?
I'm sorry?
Didn't you also give us an estimate on patching and sealing? Like there was several different estimates.
That was the second proposal.
Right.
Okay.
You can see right here where your truck's parked, what the big problem there is, Alice. There's a log blocking the ditch.
Part of it, there's not really a ditch there above it. So, yeah, the water runs right down through the middle of the road. You know what happens when water runs down the middle of the road.
In this bid, Terry, you got any ditching work to do?
No, no, this was strictly the driveway.
I think it'd be futile if you didn't do something with those ditches to do it.
Are you moving to table?
I moved to table this to the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
One question on that, Terry, does the money from that rental income, does that just go into our general account
Yes,
or?
sir. Yeah, we get $1,200 a month rental income from the house. And so the concern is if we lose the tenants, then we lose that income. So the desire would be to try to get this fixed before, and they are complaining about the driveway, so the desire is to get this fixed.
Is there any chance it would become impassable if we have a rainstorm in the next 30
Absolutely.
days?
I believe it
What's
would.
that?
Yeah,
No,
you don't think so?
that's not gonna come in
What's
possible.
the grade like right here? What is it?
What's
What's the
that?
grade like
It's
right here?
steep right there.
Steep right there.
Steve?
It's about 25%, 30.
Wow.
Yeah, see, when you come out of there at that hairpin curve where that truck parked, you're in a hard pull right there. In fact, I kind of locked mine in four-wheel drive because it tried to slip going over that loose gravel and stuff. So, yeah, it's real steep. That's under a lot of stress right there, pulling up that hill. So that's going to need to be riveted properly.
And that's the concern of the tenants. They don't have four-wheel drive, and so when they come out of there, their car is slipping and spinning, and so they're pretty concerned about it.
Well, I think it behooves us to go ahead and get this spot fixed myself,
Yeah, that's terrible.
because we got a tenant there now, and if they're complaining about it now, and you had a hard time getting out of there in a
Well, I didn't have
four-wheel
a lot of
drive.
time. I'm just saying that it's a steep grade there.
I mean,
I think if we're gonna spend that kind of money, we ought to make sure that there are other areas that can be fixed simultaneously, or if it needs to be sealed. Let's do something where all three contractors, whoever, how many bidders we have, basically look at the same work platform, because you don't, it really kind of,
Well, your low
It's
bidder,
nebulous,
yeah,
yeah.
your low bidder had 2 inches of hot roll mix, and then your second bidder had 3 inches of hot roll mix, and it was quite a bit of difference in what they were going to do, but then the second bidder didn't specify how much stone he was gonna use, so we need to get some clarification.
excuse me.
I'd suggest having the two grading persons, and then, of course, Terry's got a lot of background in asphalt too. Let's try to put something together. We know that we're comparing apples to apples.
And why don't we do it pretty quick, Terry, and maybe we might have a call meeting, or just go ahead and give you approval of the email to get this thing done.
Okay.
Keep losing that tenant, because, you know, if I was paying rent, I wouldn't want to put up with that, you know?
Right.
So, we have our tenant. All right, so we're gonna table that, you get some bids and you'll get it to us,
We need
right?
to vote on the table.
Well, y'all are gonna help me get a proposal, request for proposal written.
Got a motion and a second.
All right, all in favor? Okay. All righty. Need a motion here to approve the community hangar security camera system to Intelligent Safety USA and our internet security camera provider in the amount of $4,415 to install 3 cameras and a bird deterrent system in the community hangar and integrate into. So why don't you explain, what in the world is a bird deterrent? I like to have one of those.
It's an electronic system that has, basically it just plays predatory bird calls to try to keep the swallows out of the hangar. So right now, as you know, we don't yet have the electric door openers installed, so we're having to keep the hangar doors open 24/7. So that has become quite the bird hotel. We've got probably 100 birds nesting inside the hangar right now.
There's more than that.
Yeah, it's quite a problem. And in order to solve that problem, we need two things. We need one to be able to close the hangar up at night, which we're working on. That should be installed in the middle of August. And two, we're going to try, it's $200 to try this bird deterrent system. And I think it's worth that to see if it's really effective for keeping these particular birds deterred from coming into the hangar.
That's in this price?
Yeah, that's included here, as is some Wi-Fi equipment, because the cameras are going to be connected over Wi-Fi so that we can look 24 hours a day if you want to. You can call up the cameras on your phone and you can monitor what's going on inside the hangar.
I reviewed that post he sent to me about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We do that kind of work also, and that's a real good price for what they've got to do. That's some high work. They've got to put those things up pretty high. They've got a lot of wire and cable to do. They're going to run low voltage to all the cameras, but that's an excellent price. Even the price of the cameras were extremely good.
I move to approve.
Hold on. So you do this kind of work? Well, how come you couldn't beat this price?
Because I'm on this board.
Same reason you can't do regular work.
My motion stands.
Second.
All in favor? All righty. All right, everybody had a chance to look at this hangar lease? That Terry sent out? All righty. Anybody got any questions about it? Any motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Louisville Airport Facility Usage Policy. Everybody had a chance to review that?
Make motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, has everybody had a chance to look at the approval of the special event permit? Terry,
Let me say a
what
word
did you
about
change on this, Terry?
almost nothing. So the point that I want to make on this, there are actually 3 documents that we already have on file that have been previously approved.
Okay.
One is the special event application form, and normally what you see is just the front cover.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure everyone understands that there are 3 additional pages beyond that was in the email copy that I sent you. And those are the rules and regulations. I think, Calvin, your concern had been that we didn't have adequate rules concerning the use of the property.
Right.
And I think it's because normally you'll only see the front page. You might have forgotten about that. I emailed you the rental agreement for space inside the terminal building. And we've got a rental agreement and a rental contract in place. And I reviewed those, and I think they're fine, as is. So we sent those to y'all in the email, but basically the only change I made on the application event is I added a line where they need to tell us which facility specifically they're using. Is it going to be the runway complex, the flight line, the surrounding property, or the terminal building? And that wasn't on the existing form. Other than that, I think we're fine. So really, it's just a minor mod to what we already have in place.
Okay.
One of the event types that we have on here is a race. Do we require a sanctioning body for a race, like NASCAR or something? If we don't, we should.
We've never done it before.
Have you ever had a race?
No.
We've had some foot races.
Yeah. We got a turkey trot coming up.
But just a blanket race, I mean, that means anybody can go out there and have a drag race?
Only if you approve it.
True. But I would think we should require some sanctioning body, official sanctioning body for a race.
Well, they do have to identify, at the top of the form, they have to identify the name of the organization and any sponsoring agencies. You'll see that, I think, on about line 4. So the sponsoring agent would be the sanctioning body.
So where would you draw the line in that, though?
Well, if you don't have a sanctioning body, you got no insurance on a race.
So you could have 2 guys go out and drag race down the center of the runway.
runway.
But again, only if we approve it.
Unless we approve it.
Yeah.
I move to approve the special
The
event
insurance
permit.
company's got to do it, too, so.
Move to approve.
In second,
Second.
all in favor?
Okay, the next item on the agenda, I'm very excited to have Ms. Perry here, and she's sitting on the front row. And they have asked for permission to use our facilities for a Paulding County school system STEM event, and I'd like for her to explain to you what they're asking for.
I'm going to stand up because I'm used to just standing up and facing the
What's your name again?
My name is Marores Perry. It's hard. My husband about a year to get it down, so I don't expect you to get it done in one day. I'm the director for Career Technical Agricultural Education, what is the old vocational that we all kind of know. And I have with me today Conor Moyes. He's actually our senior instructor for ROTC for Hiram High School. What I'm doing, first of all, thank you for letting me come in and actually speak to you a couple of minutes about this event. This event basically got conceived about a year ago when Colonel Moyes and I went to a conference. It's our annual Georgia CTA, the Career Technical Education Conference. And there, the state has a huge push right now towards STEM initiatives. The STEM initiatives are those that expose our students to science, technology, engineering, and math all together as an encompassing type of interacting content. So Colonel Moyes and I have been going back and forth all this past year on trying to figure out an event where we could expose our children, our students, to opportunities in the workforce that don't necessarily have to be post-secondary. It could just be right out of high school opportunities for our students in the district to go into careers that relate to this STEM type of initiative. With that in mind, we have come up with an event where we will be partnering with the Army as well. They are willing, we'll have to still narrow all this down, but they're willing to let us rent or use some of their big tractor trailers with big simulators inside. All kinds of things from robotics to biotech, things like that. We would have also all our post-secondary institutions as well on the venue, and local businesses. So this would be an event that would expose the kids to the businesses, post-secondary, all the branches of the military. A little bit, it's a very overarching, large type of goal, but I know we're going to start small, but it's a big objective. So what we're requesting is for the school district to actually use your facilities so we can have a large enough venue to start with, and also to give the opportunity to the students and the instructors and some other members of the community to promote the airport, look at some of those careers in the area of aerospace and all those kind of things. And as you're talking as well, I'm just kind of jotting down my programs because we have so many possibilities for partnering with the airport as well from our instructors. You're talking about wildlife and how you're starting to contact all these people. Well, we had a wildlife pathway that just started last year at Spalding High School, so I'm sure those students and that teacher would love to have some conversations with you about this kind of stuff, or the water quality. We have our biotech program that is actually analyzing the Raccoon Creek water in one of their special projects with Georgia Tech and Kennesaw and things like that. So, I mean, of course, we're going to start small and go bigger if we can. But the request is basically to use that the particular airport location on October 21st. The event itself would be about from 9 to 2. Of course, we will be there at about 7:38 to set up, and we'll stay a couple of hours after to clean up. All the ROTC programs, which are 4 Army and 1 Air Force, will be there as to facilitate the whole logistics and the mechanics of the whole event. We'll have some volunteers as well. And then we're planning to bring through and this is a big window, but from 500 to 1,000 volunteers included of these students in shifts for school. So it's a big coordinating event, but we're hoping to get our students into a rotation where they can actually speak with businesses, post-secondary, branches of the military, participate in some of the simulators on that event. So that's my spiel. Did I miss anything, Cormac?
Are you gonna bring anybody in there professionals that'll talk about aviation.
Yes, sir.
Instead of the, or how about simulators? You gonna have any aviation simulators in your?
Yes. The Army's package in itself has 3 semis, one of which is a simulator, the aviation simulator, one of the 3. One of the other packages we're currently working on is a Cobra helicopter. And that one comes out of South Carolina. It's a private organization, but the Army's, we're working with them to pay for it, actually. They wanted to fly in, we're saying no because the cost associated with the fuel, because they want the school board to actually pay for the fuel. That's just going to not happen. What I am working on with the National Guard right now is for them to actually just fly in a Black Hawk and lay it down. Talking with Lockheed right now, not sure what they might bring to the table and bring in, but they're planning on coming. So the number of players from outside and the amount of aviation stuff that we have is good right now. I mean, we're dealing with at least 6 different aviation corporations out there. We're also talking about 15 different engineering corporations right now and schools. The intention is partnering with the city and county for local businesses. We got with the chamber. We're trying to push a lot of the local businesses as well and bring them out. The idea behind this, what I try to push with Mr. Cole and why we brought up the airport, is the community factor in trying to sell this off to the kids. You know, it's all great that we all understand and know what's going on here, but we need to get these kids who are the next generation to understand what it means. That's part of my job, okay? And so getting them involved in this, not only the education factor of teaching them about the STEM, but getting them to understand some of the politics that goes on inside the county and what's happening and what's going on in the county itself, the airport and all that, and understanding what's out there and available was part of the rationale for why I wanted to go out to the airport. I mean, it's a great facility. We need to start utilizing it. We need to start showcasing it and getting it in use. And bringing all these other businesses out there will only help. That's the intention.
Colonel, thank you for your service. There's an Aerospace Alliance. Have y'all spoken with them?
Not yet.
I actually did email them yet, but I had not gotten a response back from them.
I think they have quarterly meetings, and there's a time frame in there where they dispense for meetings, but I know school board attended, Georgia Tech attended, there's a lot of folks that attended, so they play a big role in aerospace and aviation involved.
Right. And right now, I mean, Tech's one of the players that we're talking about. They're supposed to come and have on the end as well. I mean, we've got a lot of the universities. We want to get not only the bigger ones, but we're talking Highlands here locally and that kind of thing, as you know, in here. But like I said, I've been working on the outside stuff. Now I'm trying to work, like I said, with the chamber and get the local stuff and try and lock that in, as well as continue to work with the bigger outside players for that push for what exactly they're bringing to the table and when they're going to come. Now, once we get a lock on a date, I can really start doing that. The key is getting a lock on a date and a place so I can tell them what they need to bring. So that's why we're really here today.
Do you mind, both of y'all, leaving the contact information?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the special event request permit for the STEM event.
For October 21, correct?
Yes, sir.
For October 21.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? That's a great idea. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, Terry, why don't you explain this next one before we...
Okay, so I believe everyone here is familiar with the saga of our current environmental assessment. This assessment has taken far longer than anyone ever anticipated that it would take. And we have had far more involvement from the community and the public than anyone anticipated, and that has, of course, driven the cost of the environmental assessment beyond what our original 200, I think it was 260,000 or so for the base assessment. So we are currently in a stop work pending approval of additional funding. I am working with the Georgia Department of Transportation and the FAA to get this approved. What we have before you, and I sent it to you in email, is a draft from Michael Baker, who was our previous engineering firm of record and the company who is responsible for completing this EA. I have not had a chance to get with Tom yet. This is my fault, not Tom's. But what I want to do is amend this motion to add the words pending legal review of the contract by council. So I need Tom to review this and make the necessary changes to make sure it's a good, solid legal document. And there are a couple of clauses in there in particular that I know Ellis has brought to my attention that we need to look at. But I would like to get the scope and the price approved so that we can move forward and not have to wait another 30 days before making additional progress on this assessment.
Where is the funds going to come from for this? And I heard this, you did email it, and I thought about it a couple of days. And I guess my concern is we still have over a $300,000 debt out there that was paid by our resident, Metropolitan County. And I know that ultimately, is the airport authority not going to be responsible for that if the person who committed?
Well, yes, that's a separate issue, but as far as who's paying for this, that's why the Georgia DOT is involved in approving the statement of work and the contract with, or not the contract, but the project with Michael Baker. Because 90 to 95% of the funds, depending on whether there's state participation or not, if it's FAA only, it's a 95 or a 90% grant. If there's FAA and Georgia DOT participation, which we're hoping for, that would be a 95% reimbursement from Georgia DOT and the FAA. So we would pay 5% of the cost.
But how long will it, I know in the past it's taken forever to get these reimbursements. How quick could we expect this reimbursement?
Well, the reimbursement comes annually, and it comes as the work is done. So we work with Tabitha, who's the financial director for the county. So we don't really have cash flow issue in the airport authority because the grants actually come to the county, and Tabitha actually cuts the checks for us to our engineering firms. So that takes care of the cash flow issue part of it with us. So it's really David's problem.
Okay, so you're saying then the county would actually be the one to pay it?
Well, we pay
And
it,
then
and
they
we're
would
responsible
get
for it.
reimbursed.
They reimburse us, but we typically don't submit these for reimbursement until Tabitha knows that she has an approved grant, and therefore she's guaranteed to get the funding at some point when the actual release of that invoice is authorized by either the FAA or the Georgia DOT.
Okay,
So it's
we
just
would-
part of the
we would
government
make sure that they were
process.
going to reimburse the 95% before we proceed.
That is correct. And so, and again, that's why we're making sure in advance, before we sign this, we're going to know that, and in fact, I've already got the approval to proceed with the project from both the FAA and the Georgia DOT. We're just now negotiating over the actual language in the contract with Michael Baker.
Well, you understand my concern.
Absolutely.
Is because that other money is out there. and
Yeah, this is,
somehow that
this
would
money
take
is
care
far exceeds what our budget would allow if it were not for the grant process.
And a lot of this is driven by comments from Washington lawyers to add to it, so that's why the cost is going up significantly.
That's right.
I move to approve with
Well, I got
caveat
one
that the,
Well, I got one question for you. Is it wrote in stone that we've got to do this yet?
It is written in law. It is part of the court mandated settlement that we would go redo the environmental assessment for the airport for the entire capital improvement program. So if we ever want to put another shovel in a pile of dirt around the airport, yes.
I move to approve with the caveat that it is reviewed by the attorney and meets the qualifications required by the county for the reimbursement.
I know we're supposed to get a second before we discuss it, but, Tom, what I had my concern about in that agreement, is actually a proposal from Michael Baker, is under extra work. They have written a very broad spectrum for extra work or change orders. And I think it's too broad.
Okay.
I think they've got the comments now. They said the scope of work should be better defined. I think that needs to be changed. So that's my concern on that. So I expressed that to Terry. Now, does this have to be paid? Is this paid in progress payments, or is it paid all paid in lump sum?
No, it's paid in progress payments. They typically invoice us for work accomplished.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Yeah, Todd?
Just like to add a couple comments to that, if it's okay. Number one, Mr. Tibbetts, the report you gave us this morning was the best I've ever heard from the airport.
Yes.
I do appreciate that report. Very much, a lot of positive things. On what y'all are discussing, and I appreciate you allowing me to talk just for a second, the reason that I'm asking it now, I wanted to bring it up in our meeting on Monday, but our meetings were so long, 3.5 hours, that I didn't feel like I needed to get in that discussion at the time. I have not talked to the other commissioners concerning what I'm stating right now. The intergovernmental agreement does say that we're going to pay certain things, but it talks about things that are guaranteed reimbursements. So all I want to say is when you approve this, and I know Tom's going to look over it, I want to make sure that y'all know that it is a guaranteed reimbursement, no matter what. The reason I say that is because the FAA has stated that they're not going to give any kind of answer to anybody on the 139 issue until after all the litigation in the court cases. Well, that could be a long time. So I want to make sure that, I know this is mandated, and I'm not an attorney, but I just want to make sure that at the end of the day, that they don't have something to come back when the 139 is not issued and say, hey, we're not going to reimburse that. The intergovernmental agreement plainly states that the county will pay that as long as it's reimbursable. So I would like Tom to make sure, and Mr. Tibbetts to make sure, that y'all get something from the FAA that states that no matter what happens concerning to the 139, that you're going to be reimbursed.
We can't do that, but it is completely independent of the one, even though it was the 139 lawsuit that
brought it on.
This assessment, the assessment itself is actually independent of the 139 certification process. We have to do this regardless.
And he made
Well,
a motion,
well-
his motion covered that.
Well, it did cover it, but also you made the statement you have had basically pre-approval
That is correct.
from the state and the FAA because this is mandated by them.
That's right.
And you're waiting to see if it's going to be a state participation for the other 5%.
Correct.
And my motion said it would not be granted until we had assurance that it was going to be funded.
That is correct.
So we have a
Right.
motion, is there a second?
And I understand that. The other part of my question, the other part of my statement is the intergovernmental agreement also talks about the county having out more than $500,000 that we don't have to pay anything. Now, there's a different section in that, and Tom, I know that reads a little bit different, meaning that the bonds that we had to pay last year may not go to that category, and I completely understand that. But I assume we're fixing to pay the bonds again this year, which is going to be another $365,000. So I just want to make sure, because what y'all agree with also affects us, and it ends up being a lot of money. And so if we look at the bonds that we're going to make, which I assume we're going to make that payment of about $365 next week, and we look at this, we're looking at close to $600,000. So I want to make sure that we're prepared in what we're doing right now with our budget. And Boyd, I appreciate the motion and the way you did it, and I appreciate Tom looking over it, but I still want to make sure there's nothing in it that says, hey, if you don't get the 139, you're not gonna get it.
I
So,
think that's very clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And let me say this too, it's because of certain parties here suing us is the reason this thing is taking place to start with. You know, so make those go away, we can make it all happen.
Well, it's not all of it, it's all those comments. And you had a lot of comments by different people.
Somebody else, listen, lawsuits is what got us in this position.
You had more comments than anticipated, and they had to review all those comments as well.
All the questions.
And all in favor?
Gotta have a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, David said.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm opposed, I'd rather have it, know for sure, have it in writing that they will definitely reimburse the 95%, and that's out of total respect for you, Terry, but that's what.
Okay, I need approval of a call meeting on
No, you
17th.
skipped one.
You skip.
Okay.
Wow, evaluation.
So I'd like to speak to this one before you ask for a motion. I'm going to ask that this one be tabled. We have been in almost daily contact with the DOT and the FAA concerning the need for or the exemption from what is called the 4F assessment. And it has to do with the wildlife management area that we are not adjacent to, but in the proximity of. And so I still cannot get clear direction from the FAA on whether or not we are in fact going to have to do this. I had hoped to have that by this morning. That's why I put it on the agenda. Talked to the FAA at 6 o'clock last, or the Georgia DOT at 6 o'clock last night. They still don't have a resolution on it. We have no choice but to table this one until our next meeting.
Make a motion, we table.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, now for the approval of the call meeting on the 17th of August, 2016. The purpose of hosting a town hall for the public at the airport quorum not required. The purpose is to allow public to ask questions and provide input. Okay, explain why quorum is not needed.
Okay, the quorum's not needed because my intent is to have an open house. We don't have adequate time in this meeting for members of the public to come and really interact with us and really dive deep into the questions that they might want to get answered. So I want to provide an opportunity that the public is not time limited. It's going to be a town hall format, so anyone can ask any questions and I'll answer as many of them as I can. I am inviting this group and would like for you to come, and if more than a quorum show up, we're required by law to advertise that as a meeting. So the purpose for making it a called meeting of this body is in the event that you do show up, we're not in violation of the Georgia Open Records and Public Meetings requirement. So you don't have to be there. I'd love you to be there. I'll answer all the questions if you're not there. But if you are, I'm going to steer as many questions your way as I possibly can.
And that would be the afternoon.
It is the
After our
afternoon
meeting.
of this regular meeting, so the notion would be that you come to this meeting, the IBA meeting, go have a good lunch, show up at the airport at 1:30, and I'll stay there until the last person leaves.
1:30, okay. All right. Need a motion to approve?
I make a motion we approve the town hall meeting for August 17th, 2016.
All in favor? Okay, need a motion to go into closed session now to discuss real estate, personnel, and litigation.
Move to go into executive session for those purposes.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
I move to reconvene the regular meeting and report that no action was taken in executive session.
Second.
All in favor? Before we close it out, I'm gonna go ahead and select a committee to do the interview process on our director job, which is Terry now holds, and I think we got like 4 or 5 applications that need to be reviewed. But anyway, I'm gonna appoint Ellis Aston, Mayor Philyaw, Boyd Austin, Robert, to serve on this committee. So if anybody's got any questions about it, y'all can address them with them. and they're gonna move post haste because Terry's time runs out in September, so. Anyway, anybody got anything else?
I want to thank Terry for his thoroughness, communication skills, and your vision to grow there for.
Thank you, Morris.
Same here, Kerry. You did a fine job.
Well, he's very qualified, So, anyway,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.